Welcome to our 2020 Graffiti Tour. I'm your host, Malik Whitaker. Graffiti culture, like most in around the country, started off in the 1970s and 1980s with the explosion of hip-hop. Graffiti came out of the need for people to express themselves visually, represent their culture, their community, their neighborhoods. From the 1970s to current day, graffiti culture has blossomed into more than just street art. It has transformed into fine arts, museum arts, and high commission artwork as well. Not only do you see graffiti artwork on streets, but you can also find them on attire, fashion, street corners, museums, art galleries, wherever there's fine art. Now graffiti culture is now a part of that. We have so many artists born and raised in Newark that have highlighted their art career through graffiti and through street art. So today we're going to take you on a graffiti tour around town, starting off in our Ironbound section. And what you'll notice today is also that our graffiti culture speaks directly to the culture and the community that it's in. And so that also is a representation of the artists representing their neighborhoods, representing their culture, their community. Our tour starts off in the East Ward, which is our Ironbound section of Newark, New Jersey. In the alleys, inside buildings, inside streets, where so many artists have blessed our city with their creative talents and expression through graffiti art and street culture. So what is graffiti culture? Is it just random street art? Is it just tagging your name on walls? Is it larger than life murals? What exactly is graffiti culture? Can graffiti culture be educational? Who knows?
I personally don't think there is a definition of graffiti art at this point, because it's international, it's everywhere. There's so many artists that you can, like if you've done graffiti, you can tell that they dabbled in it or tried it at some point. It's the finest of art as far as I'm concerned.
Now what I was taught, the people who have taught me, the real distinction is that graffiti is in the tradition of being letter-based. It's really about the form of the letters. And street art can be more like pictorial-based. Now there's often a lot of overlap. Within graffiti you see a lot of characters, you see a lot of symbolism and things like that. But that's really the distinction.
The difference is in your intention. If your intention is to do artwork that's expressive and it connects with people and it's a piece of you and it's a truth to it, I think that's graph, right? That's unadulterated truth.
Over the years, artists have blessed this community with such great artwork that now it's become an intricate part of the neighborhood and the livelihoods of the people. So we got a chance to sit down with some of our local artists around town to talk about their style and their craft and how they go about doing their own graffiti art. Here it is, check it out.
My name is Vinnie, aka Losto. I'm out here from Newark City Battleground. I got into art just it was almost 20 years ago, just kind of staying off the street and staying out of trouble. Just painting, wandering, leaving my mark on anything I saw fit to leave my mark on. This is a lot that we've been utilizing, taking care of, and maintaining for the past about 7-8 years. Putting up some artwork. All the artists that you see behind me and included in the lot have brought their own art and their own supplies and their own labor to the table. I consider myself a multimedia, mixed media artist. I don't just use spray paint, I don't just use paintbrush on a canvas. I even dabble in some sculpting sometimes. Well, I learned graffiti where I can't even say that I actually learned it. I got into graffiti, again, keeping myself out of trouble, and I wasn't noticing it as a category, graffiti. You know, I kind of just did it naturally, organically, and it became graffiti. It became other people's involvement, and there's a community around it. Well, I mean, the supplies that I had at hand, and the resources that I had at the age I started painting, you know, spray paint was more accessible than anything else to me. So walls were everywhere we saw, everywhere I went. You know, and if I was able to leave my mark on them, I did. I definitely consider graffiti art a part of the community, if not every community around the world, very much so this community of Newark. It's been a part of the art scene since the 80s, if not late 70s. You know, everybody from Jerry Gann to everybody out here, man, there's so many names. You know, we've just been keeping busy. We started getting integrated with the New York scene, Patterson scene, you know, Jersey City scene, and it became graffiti. We saw art on trains. Okay. You know, we saw vandalism, we saw tags, we saw throws, we saw pieces, but we didn't. We're like, oh, there's graffiti. Right. You know, it was a different time. Right. You know, today we're able to, I guess, categorize it as a part of art. You know, it's gained enough notoriety to where today it's now graffiti. So I definitely encourage the youth to put energy into something that they love, right? For instance, I love to leave my mark everywhere. If I wanted to just leave it at that, I would just be a graffiti writer. I put more love into it, I put more energy into it, which has evolved. You know, I was able to draw into my black book, carried it around with me, and I carried it as a portfolio. I run into customers on the PATH train or run into clients, potential clients, in a deli. You know, and they say, oh, you're an artist? They saw my black book. Show them my black book, and I'd show them some work that I could do. A lot of the benefits that I do come into painting the walls in my neighborhood and painting the businesses in my neighborhood and painting here so long that I have, my name carries weight. You know, it goes a long way with speaking to these business owners and these property owners. You know, and also traveling, doing it as well. I've been sent out to Israel, been to Amsterdam, Canada, and Mexico a few times. And it definitely speaks other volumes of experiences. The messages and I guess the whole mission statement behind my work, a lot of my work, would have to be to just get lost a lot. You know, you're never following somebody else to find your own happiness, your own serenity. Just switch it up, constantly do something different. You know, you'll find something that you want to love and you fall into and you have no problem doing. Lost though.
Newark, New Jersey, the largest city in New Jersey, home to over 250,000 people. It's broken down into 5 wards: North, East, South, West, and Central. Graffiti is not only just abstract word art, but it stands as a form of revolution through fine art and abstract expressionism. It's a form of creativity that artists use to express their revolution in a revolt against social issues and social injustices. So we got a chance to sit down with some of our local artists to talk about their craft and get some of their insights on the graffiti culture in the city. So here it is, check it out.
I'm Saron. I'm also known as Explore Freedom. I'm a visual artist. I do a little bit of everything, paintings, I create. I'm just a creative, if there's a title for it. So that's what I do. So Explore Freedom. I got into graffiti. I don't remember exactly the year, but I do know I was in the 10th grade. Prior to that, I didn't know anything about graffiti. And I transferred from Irvington High School to Vailsburg. I had never been to art school or anything like that, but just because I could draw, I took, art as a class there at Vailsburg. And I was in class, first day of school, this dude comes walking in late and he plops down in front of me and the whole back of his jacket is done. And I was just completely blown away. I just reached over, tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around, introduced himself. A lot of people would probably know who he is. I got into graffiti that day by meeting my man T.A.G from the Artifacts. So that's pretty much where it started as far as graph goes with me. I saw, like Jerry Gant stuff in the city a bunch, him and this guy Duke. But those dudes were a little older, so I had never met them before. Like, to me, they were just ghosts. But it actually started with me meeting T.A.G. So T.A.G. is the person who gave me the name that I eventually had as a graffiti artist, which was Dust 2. He's the one that kind of showed me, like, a lot of what I knew. So pretty much that was it right there. That changed my whole perspective on doing art, was meeting him that day. I tend to work in series, so to speak. I do a few different styles. Sometimes I use stencils a lot, so I'll have like a whole, an entire collection of stencil work, or there's times when I do collages, so then I'll just do a bunch of pieces specific to that, and other things that I make outside of just paintings. I make furniture, so I made these tables right here. I made that TV stand over there. There's just so many different things that I kind of dabble in, so I don't have a specific recognizable style, or at least I don't think I do. Explore Freedom is a moniker of sort. having a background in graffiti, it's very rare that somebody actually used their government name or their real name or whatever. So Explore Freedom just kind of became a thing. Prior to being Explore Freedom, I had a different name that was more based in graffiti, but it's literally just an idea. Like I want people to understand that they should try to explore what being free and what it means to them. Although I started off doing graffiti, there's always been some kind of social commentary in my work. I still use the same tools of graffiti most of the times. A lot of my work is out of a spray paint can, but as far as a message from it, I guess you would say, I try to educate in some kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I do something, I know that everybody doesn't know everything, so sometimes I'll do a piece specifically with the intention of having people go seek out that information. And then sometimes they find out information about something that I did that I didn't know. So it's kind of like a way to learn from each other. So if there's something that I want people to get from my work, I want them to learn something. And worst case scenario, I learn something too, and then I can put it into something in the future. So it's just about learning. Because I never went to art school, I just learned everything literally on the fly. Like, I learned about spray paint from Tame, and I learned it's kind of like trial and error. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of it I learned just messing around. Like, I mean, I've applied a few things that were accidents. Like, oh man, I spilled this. Let me see if I can wipe it up. Oh, I like how that looks. You know what I'm saying? So it's an I'm always learning something new. So as far as like where I learned it, just if experience was a place, that's where I learned it at. I think for me specifically, having not gone to school kept me from being in a box. So learning all these different things through graffiti, like all different kinds of paint and techniques and all that, I think that would be the biggest benefit, or like a combination of benefits, but it's all one thing. Like, it's like, I don't feel like it put me in a box. It made me know that I can do essentially whatever I can imagine.
Whether you consider it street art or vandalism, graffiti is bigger than life and takes on so much more than we give it credit for. Graffiti today can be used to memorialize loved ones and ancestors. It can speak to community in a way to honor people from the community.
On 18th Avenue when I was a kid. Like, I probably was maybe 10. And there's a bodega on the corner of 22nd Street and 18th Avenue. And, at night when they were closed, they pulled the gates down. And on one side, there was this big face with big lips and like kind of like Bootsy Collins, where the glasses were like stars. And it said Duel. And that was by a graffiti artist I later on met named Duke. on the other side was this big ass clock that said 12 o'clock rock, too nasty nas. And that was the first time it made me, like, I'm standing there 10 years old holding this pack of cigarettes from my aunt, looking up at it, and it's so big. And that was the first time I had ever seen anything that he did. And as I got older, you know, you start moving around a little bit more, and you know, you see it. And then once I got into graph, you see 12 o'clock rock, too nasty nas, so on and so forth. So I ended up meeting Jerry at an exhibit at the original City Without Walls on Halsey. And it was just like, it was like being a singer meeting Michael Jackson, you know what I'm saying? It was just crazy. So later on, by that point, I'm maybe 14, 15 years old. I guess by then he was in his early 20s. And from that moment, he was it. You know what I'm saying? Like him, Manuel Acevedo, also known as Prince, and a few other cats that was out here, and obviously specifically Tame. You know, once I was able to kind of move about in the city on my own, you know, they had this exhibit at City Without Walls, and I went there, and Jerry Gant was there, and that was the first time I met him. I think it was 1985, maybe.
Hi, my name is Rachel Albin. By training, I am a art therapist and an arts educator, and I work all over Newark and New York City. I'm also a photographer and a graffiti and street art enthusiast. I began documenting it seriously in around 2011 at 5 Points Art Center in Queens. And from that, I got to know a lot of the artists. I started publishing my work in a number of online magazines and blogs, and created a big archive of that. I think that the graffiti and street art scene, the movement, is one of the most important movements of our time, if not the most important. My style and craft really come from a long tradition of street photographers, going back to Versailles and many of the really classical street photographers from the early part of the 1900s, all the way up until modern. Some of the more modern photographers that are really influential to me are Martha Cooper, Henry Chalfant, both of which who have been documenting on the street for many decades. Also Street Art NYC, who I work with a lot, and she has become a personal mentor to me. And everybody that I met at 5 Points, my whole family there. I've seen really the power of how transformative it can be when a youth can hook into their passion and to really focus and build. It's a way to meet other people that are like-minded. It's a way to hone talent. It's a way to grow personally. And it's a way to find a path through life. Well, I've met so many amazing people and so many connections in my life. And I'm really encouraged to explore places that I might not otherwise go. Because if I hear about something that's interesting, I want to go see it and document it for myself. And I want to bring people to see it too. What I love about this mural, which was created by Pink Dragon and Manuel Acevedo, this is a homage, a memorial to Jerry Gant, who is something of a local legend, local artist who spent his whole life in Newark and passed away in 2018. As a Newark newcomer, I have been in the city for about 5 or 6 years, so while my path crossed Jerry's, I didn't have the opportunity to get to know him. And when I look at this mural, I can start to see what he was about, and I can start to understand maybe a little bit of his thought process. Now, there's a long history of memorials within street art and within graffiti. If you go into different neighborhoods, you'll see tributes of people who have passed away and died. A lot of times they're portraits. When a graffiti writer dies, it's really fitting to honor them with the letter-based and with symbolism. And that's really recognizing, you know, there's a salutation when graffiti artists say goodbye to each other. They say stay up. And what that means is, you know, stay alive, stay productive, stay creative. And when somebody dies, they get them up for them. So Detox the Ghetto that was the motto of Jerry Gant. And I love that it's they have the letter based in the tradition of a graffiti mural, and surrounding it, there's all kinds of really interesting images. So there's like ancestral images, and there's hip hop images, and I see it with the radio, the DJ. And so what that says to me when I'm looking at this is a person who stands on the shoulders of the history, who stands on the shoulders of the past. And all of these images surrounding this idea of detox the ghetto, to me, well, that's trauma recovery. That's rising above your circumstances through creative practice, through being in touch with your history, being in touch with your ancestors, and rising above that and creating something. And I mean, that's what I really love about it.
Graffiti artwork can be very educational. We have legends and Newark heroes like Jerry Gant who used his skills to create workshops and taught classes using graffiti art and hip hop culture to educate our youth on how far they can take their own artwork. We have legends like Rodney Gilbert who created his company Indoor Arts as a way to publicly get artwork out onto city walls and commissioned works and turned into murals paid for by sponsors in the city.
All right, man, what's up? My name is Malcolm Rowland. I'm an artist, a muralist, born in Newark, New Jersey, raised in East Orange. I'm the chief operating officer at Yindor. And I've been participating in his murals and his street art thing for a while. I was kind of born into graffiti. My mentor growing up was the Me Nobody Knows. He was like a father figure. You know, he was at every football game for me, knew my entire family, but he was big in that scene. He was big in a developing like street art Soho, but still connected to Brooklyn graffiti scene. I ran around with AV1 and Too Easy and Lakehead Love Child, Jay. Like I ran around with some dudes who got a tight graph background, and I kind of took some of that with me growing up. But how I got into murals, I was an assistant for Sterling Brown in 2016, and I bumped into Rodney Gilbert through that gig, and he offered me a gig with Yindor, and I kind of just never stopped. I love being a visual artist, and I kind of lean on that heavy. It's so much stuff to learn inside visual art, other than just painting and drawing, or other than just murals and gallery shows, that I'm keen on learning the other things. There's a design element, like a graphic design element to what we do. There's like an architecture element to what we do. There's like a very much a studio art way to, like side to what we do as muralists, or what we do as a production, or scenic art way of what we do. So it's like I'm multidisciplinary inside the genre of visual art, and that kind of it spreads me thin, trying different things. But I'm not a visual artist who does music or writes poetry or like that. Like I enjoy those other things, but those aren't my escapes from visual art. I like to think of myself as a company man, to be honest. Like I really appreciated what Rodney Gilbert did for all of us at Yindor, so we kind of stay real tight to those guidelines he set, those lessons he taught us. So when I think of myself inside of the company and the art that I create inside the company, or the projects I procure or produce, I want that stuff to live beyond a person. I would like the intentions of it to kind of stay in those communities and help continue to develop them. We always talk about redevelopment, but we never really talk about the continuation of that development and how it, and what does it look like 10, 15, 25, 50 years down the road. That's what we're looking to do, like build things that will last and have an impact and be steadily grown upon. As an individual artist, I just want my artwork to connect. I want people to really feel my intentions and what I do. I get my inspiration from like the struggles of oppressed people. I think the innovation that we create for oppression is something to be cherished. So like I'm really big into telling stories, like symbolic stories about about our narratives, things that mean something to us. I think a lot of the mural work and a lot of the community work that we do really personifies that. That's why I fell in love with murals in the first place, and that's also why I wanted to be a Yandorian.
This yellow wall we did.
This is the first one we did?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
That took-
This was a Lost Dreams production through him,
Right.
believe it or not. This is the oldest running production here. This was done in 2004. This is Chris P19 from France. This is old school legend, Sonic 002. Then right here is me, right here. This actually came out in magazines, graffiti videos and stuff, hip hop videos. All right, I write Mad Hatter 1, MH1 for short, and I've been in the Newark graffiti graph scene since 1996. I started in the street as a young kid. I didn't know how popular I was until fans of me wanted to buy my tags on canvases. And then from there I took it to a professional level where I developed my art skills, I honed my skills, and became more of a professional artist, per se. You know, and I took my graffiti art serious, you know, by buying good brand paint, learning from others from the past. I call them old school heroes, you know, and then develop my own style. The style that I like the most is the wild style. I definitely concentrated on that. Just progressing in the evolution of lettering.
So like with this specific girl here, Mad Hatter had an image of a woman. He was like, I think you should paint this. Well, it was like a lady from like an old magazine from the 70s, and he just liked the way she looked. I took it then and said, okay, I'm gonna make it my own. And, you know, I added some stars to her face and the smoke blowout, and, you know, I create my own image that way. But, you know, it's a team effort. You know, Mad Hatter wanted to do like a robot industrial dystopia type theme, and then we all just creatively start putting in our input and our juices. And it comes together kind of on the wall. Sometimes I'll be up on the ladder and they'll be like, no, 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 don't do that. And I'm like, just shut up, let me do my thing. And, you know, I go up there and I'll bring it together and I'll come back down and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's dope. Leave it. We're glad you went there with it.
When you think of something like this, you just don't plan it in a day or two. It takes like months in advance. It's not just like, all right, let's go to the wall and start painting. Like, nah, man, like everything is pre-thought of, you know, every little thing.
There's been many occasions where I'm up on the ladder, faint, feeling like I'm gonna fall off, and they're like, just go a little higher with that line, just blow it out a little bit, and you can't really see what you're doing. The wall is right in front of your face, so it becomes an instinct thing, and simultaneously you need that group effort. You need somebody on the ground seeing what you're doing from a distance, so that they can tell you, are your proportions right? Are you taking that far enough? How is, you know, when it comes to spray paint, the cans have different pressure. So when you're on the wall, that pressure might come out and look differently to you when you're up close versus from a distance when you step back down and take a look at everything. So it's easier to do as a group. It's easier to take everybody's input, put it all together, and work as a team. Plus, you can execute a lot faster that way.
Being that, like, I've been in the graph game like the longest, you know, they take my words for advice, you know, and my experience, you know, of what can go wrong. We tend to try to produce like elite, or at least great content. The crew is basically me, Zyron, and Bank under Fox Crow. We're like, you know, we listen to Z. You want me to do this? You want me to do that? What colors should we use? And we talk about it, you know. It's like a meeting, how we're going to get things done. You know, like no messing around. We're going to go there, we're going to do this. You know, no sloppiness. You know, nice cut straight lines with the thin caps. You know, and we go from there.
Foxcrow really is this harness. This is a harness we developed to get up high when you are on a ladder. As I mentioned earlier, trying to hold a lot of cans at one time is impossible. This is something we developed where you can hold 4 cans in your harness comfortably. Everything is adjustable. These top straps will adjust the angle. The back strap will adjust the height. And it's a one-size-fits-all. This straps us in. It's not a safety harness. This is not something you can hang off the side of a bridge with and paint. It will not save your life. But it's a tool that we use when we want to execute something like this. Like, for example, this girl, this took a lot of blending. And I blended at least 3 to 4 different colors. And when I'm up there blending, I need to be able to access my tools easily. So these slide in really easily. There's a fabric in here. It's kind of like a baseball glove. And so if you keep cans in it, it will retain the shapes. So this way, you know, I'm not fumbling when I'm on the wall. I can just grab my cans, paint. Here, I'm going to try using this one. Let me put this one down, grab my other color.
There's a friendship involved, of course, and then there's business involved. So we make it to where we're satisfied on both ends, because you know how they say business and friendship does not work. But we have like an understanding where, like, look, listen, we're gonna see what happens with this, but we're not gonna take it serious to where our friendship is gonna break up. You know, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But you know what, at the end of the day, we're gonna paint and we're gonna create.
Wow, that was great. That was a good tour. There was some good interviews. Man, that was exciting. So I just want to take the time out to thank everybody, thank the artists, thank the contributors. So what did we learn today? Graffiti is everywhere. Graffiti is life. Graffiti is culture, right? Graffiti is not only just vandalism, but it's a whole life on its own that has blasted off into something more and something bigger. So I hope you learned as much as I did today. And I want to thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time.
My advice to you all is that you need to express yourself in all the ways that you can. Never be afraid to make mistakes, and be the most creative.
Graffiti is used to express yourself on the streets, on paper, anywhere. It's where someone could be creative and just be themselves on a piece of paper.